What is up, and welcome back. Sorry about the stream yesterday, everybody that was watching. There was an issue with the encoder. Also, I was trying to be a little too fancy, which is a problem that I have. But I wanted to, I actually, as I'm getting more back into the daily streaming thing, I'm realizing some things that I should be doing better. So I just wanted to say, some of you will be joining this live via video, Instagram, Periscope, YouTube, Facebook. Some of you may watch the replay on one of those platforms, and some of you maybe just be listening on from the podcast, whether you're on Google or Apple or Anchor, wherever you're at. So I don't want to leave out the audio version. I think the last few episodes of this, I've sort of forgotten that there is a whole subset of the people that are going to be listening to this that aren't going to see what I'm talking about. So today, what I wanted to do is, because I got cut off sort of in the middle of my rant on task management systems yesterday, I wanted to dive back into that and talk about that a little bit, and then we'll call it good for today. So we're going to talk about that. I am going to keep with the cool fancy transitions though. It'll help. I think the audio people will appreciate it because they'll get more than just my droning voice, and the video people will also appreciate it because it will show some other things. I apologize to our Instagram viewers. If you're trying to watch the screen for what I'm doing when I'm showing my screen for things, you're not going to get the stream's not going to be very good. So you're going to want to switch over to like YouTube or Facebook or whatever if you actually want to see what I'm doing. But for everybody else, here we go. All right, so like I said yesterday, my task management system is pretty technical. It's pretty involved, and it's, well, I say technical just because of the way that I actually access it, the way that it works for me. It's not super straightforward in the way that I actually use it, and I showed you yesterday kind of the way that everything breaks down. And what I'm going to do today, because I realized that I think maybe I overdid the complexity of it because I showed you my whole rundown. I think what I'm going to do today is actually just show you, I just want to show you like the basics of what it is that I'm doing, and just show you kind of how it works. So I'm going to close out of all these other little windows here real quick. I don't know what's happening. See, this is funny because here we go. Yeah, it's full screen. That's the problem. All right, here we go. So I'm going to do this in sort of I'm going to kind of like put it in the middle of the screen so that Instagram people can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about here. Now, as from the outset, as some background here, it's important, I think, that you understand that tasks in general are meant to keep us organized and let some other system, whether it's paper, whether it's a to-do list, whether it's some other app, do the remembering of what needs to be done. But as I was getting into yesterday, the problem is that most people that are self-managed, or even people that are managed by somebody else, have a problem taking what needs to be done and then putting it in a manageable order so that it gets done in a timely fashion and so that it gets done well in advance of whatever deadlines they may have. So it's basically the translation between, here's a bunch of things that you need to go do, and this is what you should be doing right now. And that's, I think, where a lot of problems come in, because, you know, people like me, freelancers or people that are trying to deal with, with other projects that they're dealing with, have a bunch of things that they're juggling. A lot of times we'll run into issues where they don't have, like, they're not really capable of managing the project correctly. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that we're not, I mentioned this yesterday, we're not really trained in the transition between those two. We're trained either in, okay, this is how you need to create task lists. This is a tool that you need to use where it'll take emails that are coming in with certain subject lines or tasks from this app and move them over here or whatever. And there was an app that I used for a really long time called, in fact, let me pull it up. It's called Tonkin. And if you're a part of a team, I like the way they renamed this, robotic automation for management workflows. I love it. If you're part of a team, and that team, like if you're an agency and you use, let's say you use Asana, and you have a client and they use Monday, which used to be Depulse or some other tool, but you also use Slack. Tonkin is a brilliant connector bot, which will take your tasks and basically just keeps everything in sync across the different platforms. So you might be working in Basecamp, and like I said, they're working in Asana, but it'll keep the tasks synced across all of the different platforms. And most importantly, it keeps them centralized so that Tonkin, what the cool thing about Tonkin, as I see it, is they have an automated follow-up bot. So it plugs into Slack, and the bot will automatically follow up with people based on the due date of a task to get the status. And then whoever's managing it can sit at the top and see, oh, here's the status of this task, and this is what's happening, and there's automatic check-ins, and it's just easier for you to see a high-level overview. I love this. The problem with this is it's a bit expensive for what it does, but it's meant for enterprise systems, so I get it. I get why. But it's a bit expensive to use. I actually tried to use it myself, but it turned out to be like $80 a month for me and two other people. And while it was nice, it doesn't work unless you have a team, right? That's kind of the point that I'm getting at there. But my task management system, I've had to modify a bunch because that's the kind of thing, like I needed something to sit in between the process of me creating the list of things that need to get done, because I'm good at that, right? If I have a project and I know what the end result of the project is supposed to be, I'm really good at coming up with a list of the stuff that needs to get done. And then later, I'm really good at just powering through that list. But the problem is I'm usually not good at taking time after I've made the list and organizing those tasks into dependencies and into what needs to be done first versus second. And then most importantly, having whatever the list is that I put together come back and tell me, this is what you need to be doing now. Because here's the problem. If I have 4 clients and each of those clients has 3 projects, and I create these lists of tasks for each of the projects, if there are interdependencies that require certain activities to happen at certain times that have different priorities across the different projects and across the different clients, if I sit down and try and just power through one project for one client at a time, what ends up two things end up happening. One, it doesn't work that way because there's always these dependencies and things you have to wait on. But also, I'm trying to juggle and keep 4 different clients happy about these different projects. So I actually need to be doing pieces of each thing as the day goes on, based on the priority of each individual product and based on the priority of each individual client. So it becomes difficult to know what I should be doing when all I have is, okay, here's a siloed task list for this and a siloed task list for this and over here. And I have the added disadvantage, being a freelancer, of working from home, which means the lines are very blurred between home projects and work projects and personal projects. So I have to, and especially because I live where I work, like most of my life is spent either in this chair, on that couch over there, or sleeping. And if I leave, it's like I'm going to train or I'm going to walk the dog or whatever. But most of my life is spent here. And so because of that, I may have tasks like chores that I need to do for house cleaning. Like I had to run the vacuum, which is strangely silent. I need to go figure out what's going on with that. But I need to make sure that the priorities, like it might be that there's a task for a client that I could be doing, but if I have a home task because of what I've told my system is more important than that client project right now, then I should be doing the home thing first, and then I can push off the client project until either later today or tomorrow, right? So what you can kind of get what I'm getting at, that it's complicated and it's not super straightforward to just say, here's my list. I'm going to start at the top and work my way through, because that list needs to be sorted. That's what it comes down to. Now, you can go through and manually put things in priority order and just try and like feel it. So you have a list and you think, oh, this is more important than that one. Let me move it up or move it down. But I think a more efficient and more effective way to do it is to tell your system the rules for sorting, the rules for priority. So, for example, if I have 4 clients, one of them pays me, let's say, $4,000 a month. One of them pays me $1,000 a month, and the last 2 pay me $150 an hour. Which client do you think is my most important from a priority standpoint? Clearly, it's the one that pays me the most every month because they're on a retainer and they're paying that money so that they have higher priority. So if I was to put those in order of priority, I would actually put them in directly the same order that I just mentioned. The first client would get priority 1, the second client would get priority 2, and then the clients 3 and 4 would get the same priority. So there's no difference, which means that if it comes down to a tie between those two, it's going to come down to either the importance of the project or the task, or which one was created first. That's what it's going to come down to. So what I need to do is tell my system, project 1 has a higher priority than project 2, and project 2 has a higher priority than projects 3 or 4, but projects 3 and 4 have the same priority. And then I need to tell it if there is a particular tag or a particular priority associated with a particular task, or maybe one of the sub-projects underneath each of those clients, that needs to be sorted as such. And then if there's a priority on the individual task where it's more important, or it's due sooner, or it's more urgent, or it has a dependency or whatever, I want to make sure that I get that done first. Okay. So let me switch over to my screen, and I'm going to show you, I want to show you like how I do this and how this works, and how it's set up in my particular scenario, my particular case. And so what I'm going to do is go nano task RC. This is my the file that controls my my task management. So if we look down here, you can see obviously I've got some things set up here for like the way that it looks, and I can change the theme and stuff. I also have, if I tag something as an appointment, I want it to show up as blue so I can see it. You can see this part right here, color.tag.appointment, white on blue. Then I set what I want the columns to be for the report, because I don't need to see too much information. I just want to see what's right in front of me. And then right down here, you can see my priority coefficients. So you can see urgency, and then the different coefficients that I'm assigning to the different tasks. So you can see here, I have these clients, and their priority is ranged by how much they're paying me. Okay. And also by there's a bunch of factors that come into this, but they're sorted in priority order, and I'm giving them a particular coefficient on the task priority itself. So you can see here, this particular client, they pay me the most each month, so they get the highest priority. The next one, they pay me regularly, not nearly as much, but they pay me regularly, so they get the next highest priority. Then on down the line, ding, 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 all the way down, right? So I have a list of, if once I tag the projects, once I tag a task as associated with a particular client, it'll sort it based on that priority. Okay, so all I have to do is I just have to tell the system, this is what the task is, and this is who it's for, and then this is the priority of this particular task. And then you can see up here blocking. If this task is blocking another task, meaning the second task depends on the first one, I need to get the first one done first. So that has its own coefficient. I'm basically bumping that up in the priority list because it needs to happen before the others. So I'm putting it in that order. So that's essentially what we've got going on for that. Now, let me close out of this. Why is it not closing? Well, that broke. Anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to show you for the first part. Let's see if I can get this thing to, here we go, pop up and show me the right thing here. So I just refreshed it. That's a good example of me. I'm trying to be all technical in the developer style things, but I'm not actually as good as I think I am. So anyway, so I've got that listed. Now if I go back here and I go task, you can see I've got a list of the things that need to happen. And over here on the right side, the urgency is calculated based on what project they're in. So you can see here, the stay ahead tasks should be at the top because that's my highest priority client, then followed by sales message, then Brandex, then Win Daily. But you can see here, there are some pieces where the due date or the priority of the particular task, or maybe I've put a tag on it that says next, then it pops the priority up, whatever it is. It's not necessary that I have to do all my stay ahead tasks first and then move to the other ones, because the way that the weight is calculated is based on first what project, but then also some other factors. So you can see here I've got stay ahead and then sales message and then Win Daily and then a bunch of stay ahead tasks and then some other tasks. And there's even some pieces like sales message is my second highest priority. But you can see it didn't make it super high. And part of that is because it's, the due date is in the future. There's some other pieces that will affect that. So that gives me that sort of list of, it puts it in the list of tasks. So I know to start at the top. Now, here's the crazy thing about it. Here's the kind of the big difference between what I do and what some other people will do. I don't like to see tasks that are too far in the future. Because if I see that list, if I see this, I'm going to see this stay ahead stuff down here. I'm going to see this PLI task, and I'm going to think, oh, I'm just going to go do that. I just want to go do something else. I think that's the case for a lot of freelancers. I think what we need to be better at is just focusing on what's the most important, what's at the very top. So you may have noticed yesterday when I showed you, I limited the task list that I have is actually limited to the top 3 tasks. So when I have my task list shown to me, it doesn't even show me those other tasks that are down below. All I see is what's right here, which means all I'm thinking about is what's right here. What's right at the top of the list, the top 3 tasks that I need to get done. And so I don't have to, I'm not worried about anything else at the bottom because I need to work through these ones first. So that keeps me on task. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention yesterday, I didn't really get a chance to do it very well, is the only way, and I'm working on this, but the way that this would be even better, one of the problems that freelancers run into is being able to accurately give estimates for when something is going to be completed, because we have no idea. We just think, oh, this is going to, we're not really good even at estimating how long something is going to take. And we're really bad at taking into consideration all the other projects that we have. Like if I'm talking to a client, I'm only thinking about their stuff. And I should be, right? I shouldn't be thinking about everybody's stuff when I'm talking to a particular client. But it's hard for me to add a task to the list and then go to somebody else and say, this is when this is going to get done, because I don't have a really good idea of, I'm not doing a good job of taking everything into consideration. Now, a step in that right direction is they have a built-in burn down chart, which helps mostly because it'll calculate based on how quickly I solve tasks. This assumes that a task is like the same amount of time, right? All tasks are equal essentially in terms of that a unit of time to complete, which they're not for me. But you can see down here, I finish about 2.5 tasks a day. Usually because they're higher. They're like bigger tasks. And so this says in 8 days, I'll have all of my tasks completed. So all of these will be done in 8 days if I follow the same schedule that I've been on, for however long it's been using this to calculate. That's probably not going to be the case, mostly just because, there's other factors. But you kind of get an idea of that. Now, what I really want to do is assign, and this is something I'm working on right now, assign an estimated time to completion to every task. Because then what you get is not only a list of tasks in priority order, but you also get the estimated time to completion. And if you also know how many hours you work each day, on average, you can accurately estimate. So I can look at my task list and I can break it off into chunks of, if I work, let's say I work 4 or 5 hours a day. I can break it off into chunks of 4 hours per day. And I just find that task on the list and I look over and that's however many hours it is from now. Divide that by 4, and that'll give me the day that it's supposed to be completed if I stay on track. Then I could build in a natural buffer window, give myself, 25% on top of that, which will give me, it'll get done at the soonest on this day and at the latest on this day. That way, whenever I have projects or things that I'm adding in for my clients, all I need to do, this is what I want to get to, and this is, I think, what everybody should get to. I want to be able to just jump in to my task. I want to talk to my clients, come up with a project. Then I want to list out the tasks, put them all into this program, and then have it tell me all the details, everything that I need to know about it. When it's going to be done, when it's going to be done based on everything else. And then anytime I add more tasks, I need it to tell me what's updated. Has a particular project been changed? And then, a really cool thing would be if I could tell the system if this cannot change. So if I put a project in and it's set and this is when it's supposed to be done, new tasks that get added need to not modify the order in which those things happen. So if those tasks are supposed to shift, it's going to move, it'll bump tasks that can be bumped versus tasks that can't be bumped. So anyway, just kind of a work in progress. But that's kind of the way that I think about tasks. If you have your own way of thinking about tasks, if you think about them differently, or if you have a particular way that you like to think about tasks, let me know in the comments on whatever platform you're on, and we can chat about it. But that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So with that, that's all we really have for today. So thank you again. By the way, for those of you watching on the video platforms, make sure you're subscribed to YouTube, follow the Facebook page, follow me on Instagram, at Brett James everywhere. Also on Twitter and Periscope. If you're on the podcast, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform, Google, Apple, I'm everywhere. Also head over to anchor.fm/think like me, and you can leave me audio notes. You can ask me questions, and I can have them featured in the podcast itself, which would be kind of fun. So yeah, it's been great. And again, I've got this. You didn't get to see it yesterday, but I actually have the ending, the little outro thing figured out for this live stream. So cue the outro.